On the defensive side of the ball, this is the first big one I think I have here. Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi, Dean Lowry, Isaiah Loudermilk, and Montravius Adams make it on the defensive line. DeMarvin Leal, man, on his way out. I don't see him making the team, whether he's traded or cut or however that goes down. I do not know. But there's just a lot of guys right now, and you go into, I mean, look, when you make this 53-man roster prediction, you write everybody down. You finish it. I think I finished it with 56 guys, and you have to trim. You have to get to 53. DeMarvin Leal was one of those three. And I think he's one of the last ones in, one of the last ones out, but I think you move on from him. You trade him, something, but he's my odd man looking in on the defensive line group.
Yeah, that one's tough because, I mean, every name you mentioned there of making the 53-man, there's an argument to be made for DeMarvin Leal on some of those guys, like an Isaiah Loudermilk, but I think it all comes down to what the role is. You know, DeMarvin Leal goes into this training camp without a really specified role, whereas Loudermilk, we talked about last week, you said he's a run stuffer and he's somebody that has taken steps and taken strides over the last couple of years, whereas DeMarvin Leal is somebody that still, you look at him and you say, what is the specialty there? Because it doesn't seem like there is one.
No, I agree. I look at DeMarvin and just say he's got a lot of growth left in him. If he doesn't make that growth this season, you just have too many options. You have too many guys. I think Montravius Adams would be the closest thing to getting cut before him. But Montravius Adams isn't a bad nose tackle, and you need a nose tackle, and you need somebody behind Keanu Benton. DeMarvin Leal can't fill that role. There's just too many guys. DeMarvin's the odd man out as we sit here today, which is tough. I think he knows that. I think he understands how close he is to being on the outside looking in when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers roster, which is not great. And I think you got a lot of time to turn it around, but I don't know. I think as I make this today, he's just not going to make the team. We go outside linebacker. We go TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, Jeremiah Moon, David Perales would be my other one. But I mean, Jeremiah Moon's, you look at this guy, he's just so lengthy and tall. You got to do something with him. You got to be able to figure something out. So line him up in the middle next to Cam Hayward during PATs and just say, stick your hands up and hope something happens. Now, I think you could find a place for a guy like that. Has some experience. I think he's the dude in there. And then inside linebacker, you're keeping 5, which the Steelers desperately need to. I thought it was nonsense that they did not keep 5 inside linebackers last season. You always keep 5 inside linebackers. Always. These guys get tired. You have to replace them. They get injured. They're taking more hits from more bodies, from more different positions than almost anybody else out there. You gotta have bodies at inside linebacker and bodies that you can trust. The Steelers, I keep 5 of them this year: Patrick Queen, Cole Holcomb, Landon Roberts, Peyton Wilson, and Mark Robinson. We jump into cornerback here. Got a little tough. It definitely got a little tough as we got close to the bottom of this depth chart. My 5 that I'm keeping is Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, Cam Sutton, Corey Trice, and Darius Rush. Here's the big issue here. There is no other nickel. The other nickel would either be Anthony Averett or Beanie Bishop. And I think either one of them could have an opportunity to stay, but where it gets tricky is at safety, you got to keep Minkah Fitzpatrick. You got to keep Deshaun Elliott. You're keeping Miles Killebrew. DeMonte KZ makes 53-man roster, and then I have Ryan Watts making this 53-man roster too. I just don't know how you give up a guy who has the potential, who is a 6th-round pick, who could come in here and make some noise and really make an impact on this team at some point. You don't want to lose him. You don't want to lose a Ryan Watts. Because of that, I think you got to take a shot that you only have one nickel or one slot corner. Doesn't feel good. I think Darius Rush could play the slot, which is good. I think DeMonte KZ could as well. I don't know, though. I think that's a big risk that they're taking. Can I toss something kind of crazy out at you? I think there is potential, and I'm not willing to say it's going to happen yet. I'm not even willing to say it's a strong possibility, but I'm saying there's potential that if they keep a guy like Anthony Averett or Beanie Bishop, DeMonte KZ is the one that gets cut. I think that's a real possibility because he's here and he plays good football. He's a quality football player. He's a number 3 off the bench. There's no questions asked. That's what you're looking for. And I like DeMonte KZ. I like his play, and I think he steps up big time when the Steelers need him to step up big time as a starter. That being said, It just seems like he's the odd man out because you're going to keep a guy like Ryan Watts. And if you need a slot behind Cam Sutton, maybe he's the guy that you just feel too comfortable with Ryan Watts. Maybe you feel comfortable Cam Sutton dropping back there. I don't know. But I think that KZ could be the guy who finds himself on the outside looking in if things go a certain type of way.
Yeah, that's a tough position for DeMonte KZ because you would think that looking at the safety room alone, if one of Minka or Deshaun Elliott goes down, you want DeMonte KZ to be that guy, especially if something happens early. You want him to be that guy because he has the experience versus bringing in a guy like Ryan Watts, who's a little bit more of a project early in the season. But it gets tough when you look at that nickel position. Last year, they had Chandon Sullivan, they had Elijah Riley, and while they weren't, Pro Bowl options, they were nowhere close to Pro Bowl options, but they were guys that could play in multiple different positions, and it made you feel okay because you had the backups at those other positions if need be. But with KZ, that's a tough spot because, you mentioned it, you have guys like Darius Rush that can fit into that slot, and you don't want to lose a guy like Ryan Watts. So I'd be surprised if they got rid of KZ, especially considering how everybody felt about him in the locker room last year when he returned for the playoffs. But that is going to be, like DeMarvin Leal, he is going to be fighting for his job throughout the entirety of his time in Latrobe. And, I don't see it happening personally, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I think as we sit here today, I'm not a DeMonte KZ is on his way out guy. I don't think I'm anywhere near that. But I don't think he's as safe as people want to say he is. I don't. I think there are a lot of options out there for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they just might find themselves in sticky situations. Ryan Watts is the guy and Beanie Bishop are the two that are going to push and drive something here. I don't think Anthony Averett did not impress me during minicamp. Not enough to be like, it didn't impress me to the point where the Pittsburgh Steelers went out and got Cam Sutton. They're like, all right, we've seen 4 days of this guy. Sounds good. Cam, come on back. That's what they've seen. If they got to prepare for another slot, somebody out there, I don't know. Maybe KZ's the guy. And maybe that's how, I don't want to say saving grace, but maybe that's the reason that they have zero intentions of cutting him. But if Cam's not dealing with a big suspension and they need another slot guy and Ryan Watts looks decently impressive enough to be that safety 3, I'm not going to rule it out, man. I'm not going to rule out DeMonte KZ being that guy, that odd man out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, it's early, but it's time to have these conversations. It's definitely time to have these conversations. On special teams, obviously the big 3, Chris Boswell, Cameron Johnston, Christian Kuntz, even though Matthew Wright, man, looks pretty all right. Always looks pretty all right. Like Matthew Wright, but you're not getting rid of the Wizard of Oz. It's never going to happen.